Hello everyone. All good on the sound? How cool is it for me to follow a cool introduction from Stuart, and I'm going to pick up on some of his themes of emotion and branding, but also Lisa. I really enjoyed listening to Lisa because that's the opposite of me. So someone young, vibrant and exciting, and now you've got me. I was thinking, I did this presentation in the Shard with Orlo in December, and I was trying to think about what had changed in all that time. And in thinking about this, I thought, well, can't tell the same jokes, but what's moved on? And I looked at the presentation, it was online. And I looked on the YouTube last night and I searched for my name. Has anyone ever done that? And two things come up. The first thing that come up is the Orlo presentation, which is really quite interesting, I hope. And the second one is me going down a Cresta Run thing in a bobsleigh, which is, I'm not sure which is the more terrifying, standing in front of you lot or doing the Cresta Run thing. I like the Birmingham introduction as well. I'm a Cov kid, so everyone will be checking their wallets and purses now. But I used to come down this area, crikey, I was going to say 20 years ago, I spent 25 years ago. And this used to be the place where you'd come. It was the only place in Birmingham where you could get a late night drink. And there'd be a massive queue. There was a club, and it might even been here. But there was this club, many of you from Birmingham might remember it. It was the only place you could get a late night drink. And that's why I was there, I promise you. But it was also the place where you'd come and get your drugs. And this kind of this area is regenerated. And that's the theme of it, really. That, you know, this regeneration, things have changed, social media. I was stood on the train this morning, and I just took a casual look at what people were doing. And there was a young lady next to me, and she was on this cool website, I don't know what it was, and she was looking to buy some makeup, clearly, and she had all these great pictures of these people with great makeup on, and she was, you know, it's clearly an aspiration for her to get some of this makeup. And then I looked, and there was another person, and they were looking at saris. And obviously she was getting married. You could tell this was a certain type of sari to get married in. And it was all colourful and exciting and vibrant. And I didn't see anybody on the HMRC website, or I didn't see anybody on the Birmingham City Council website, or didn't see anybody on the Met Office website. So that's kind of where I fit in, and that's why I'm not really as cool as Lisa. This is me, I'm Andy Clough. I work for Microsoft, and again, following the themes. Anybody heard of Microsoft? Thank God for that. Some hope in life. But I like this idea of emotion. I like this idea of the connections. I've been working around the public sector for 25 years. I've been 4 years in Microsoft. And I work in what we call business applications in Microsoft. We're kind of the not very well-known bit. But I get involved in customer experience, customer engagement, and our ERP tools. And we quite often find ourselves working with these various different channels. And I'll pose the question, we can see this number here, it's a great number, isn't it? My slides are so dull compared to Lisa's, aren't they? No videos, no GIFs. I wouldn't know how to do one. But 3.2 billion, that's a lot. Active users on social. How fun on my train this morning? It's what everyone does in the morning, isn't it? It's, you know, who was saying about the first thing people do is look at their phone and they're buying things and all that kind of stuff. And I wonder if social media's become so used because it's great tech, or it's just really easy to adopt it. It's so easy to go onto WhatsApp and set up a group and do it. It's really hard to phone people these days, isn't it? No one wants to phone people and talk to them. And we'll think about that in a minute. When do people want to phone people? It's about emotion, I think, and I'll pick up on that theme in a minute. But that's what makes it really hard for the public sector to engage because of what they're trying to do. They're providing a service. It's not a sexy service. It's not something you necessarily want to do. Nobody really wants to phone HMRC, do they? Maybe they do, I don't know. But it's really, really difficult. And again, customer service in public sector is really difficult because they find it difficult to embrace these channels. Again, looking back to my previous presentation with Orlo, at the time, my friend's son, he's 24, 25, he's starting his own business, and he needs a license from a central government organisation. And he was getting a little bit annoyed because it applied for this license 3 days ago and he still hadn't got it. And in this social media world, everything happens instantaneously, doesn't it? Look at the gift response. It's instantaneous. It's now. He'd waited 3 days to get a response from this central government department, and he still hadn't had it. I can't remember when that presentation was. It was in December. We're now in almost March. He still hasn't had a response. That's really bad. And that brand, this is a brand that we all know in central government, still no response. That's affecting his business. He tried to phone them, and they've got a number on their website, and he rang the number, and it was number unobtainable. If anybody knows what that sounds like, it's just a beep. No, nothing, nobody there. So really poor branding, really poor service. That's bad news. We talk about the convenience of social media. These numbers up here mean whatever they mean. But it's about convenience. And I always tell a story about BT. Apologies if anybody from BT is here. But if your broadband breaks, if you have BT broadband and it breaks, it's the end of the world. You know, I have a 21-year-old daughter living with me, and if broadband goes down, it is the end of the world, believe me. And actually, even as an old guy, I can't watch Netflix now, so I kind of suffer as well. And if you phone BT to tell them, well, first of all, you can't phone them. You kind of can because you've got your mobile. You phone BT to tell them that broadband's not working. You're wasting your time. You just don't do it. Wasting your time. If you tweet them, bang, they're right at you. Great service. Really good service from BT. On a par with the people I consider great service providers like Virgin Trains and other organisations who are really good at solving problems and getting back to you. BT solving the broadband problem really, really quickly. It's fantastic. And I just wonder if public sector can achieve that. I just think it's really hard for them. I think that we're under difficult budget constraints. We have to deal with all sorts of unknown issues that may suddenly arise. Maybe it's a flood, maybe something within the local community happens, or maybe something that's actually planned happens, like EU exit, which we just don't know how to get our grip on it at all. It's really frustrating. And we think about the commercial impact as well. And a lot of the organisations here, a lot of the organisations on social media are actually trying to sell you stuff. So mobile phones, mobile contracts, train journeys, clothing, makeup, saris, whatever it happens to be. They want to sell you stuff. And in the public sector, we're not trying to sell you stuff, or they're not trying to sell stuff. They're trying to provide a service to the community, a service to the citizens of the country, a service to whatever. So it's really, really difficult for them to get that right. They have to choose different language. It's difficult to measure impact. And even those government organisations that are selling stuff, there are a few of them, and I'm pleased to say I'm really proud to work with a few of them. They're not selling that stuff to close more deals, to be more, to generate revenues, to generate income. They're not doing that. They're selling this stuff to provide a service to the country. They do generate some income, but that tends to go straight back to the Treasury or through other things. So even where they are selling it, it's quite difficult for them with the language they use. I keep looking up here and there's a slide down here, so get my head around that. Here again, we're looking at the language of connecting with customers, empowering the organisation and create real results. You never hear that in Coventry City Council or so-and-so housing authority. Starting to hear a little bit of that in some of the educational organisations, actually. I was with a Russell Group University yesterday, and they were starting to talk about results and the brand of the organisation, because they're kind of selling. They're selling to students. They've got a branch in China. They've got a branch in Malaysia. Fantastic. It's a really cool logo that said the name of their city, China and Malaysia, which I thought was really cool. So they are starting to sell, and that's really exciting. And we're trying to help them do that. But the government just use different language here. Government doesn't really, they don't really know their customer. When we contact a government organisation, you might only do it once in your lifetime. So my daughter recently, she's 21, she got her first job, she graduated from uni, and she said to me, "Dad, I've got to contact the tax guys." I said, "Yeah, HMRC." She didn't really know the logo. She didn't know who they were. I said, well, how do you think the best way to do it? She said, "Well, I'm going to use web chat." Yeah, I said, "Great idea. It's a great idea." And so she went on web chat, and she had really great service. It was a really simple request. She needed to get herself registered for tax. She got a part-time job, graduating from uni, summer. And And she had this web chat conversation with this person at the end, and it went really, really well. She was happy. But where it broke down was a little bit later, where she had to go back to the same organisation to follow up. And on this instance, due to the emotion of the situation, she was a little bit stressed, she was a little bit angry, it was to do with money, you hadn't got a lot of money when she was 21. She had to phone them up, and they had no record of the web chat. It wasn't linked to her customer record. So this organisation didn't know their customer, and it all broke down, and she got very frustrated, there were tears, and it was all my fault. giffgaff's a great brand, and clearly I would suspect that it's a lot of people's favourite brand. And I got myself into a little bit of trouble at the last Orlo presentation, where I said, I'm going to say it again, and I might regret it again, and I'll apologise in advance if you disagree with me. I'm not sure I agree with myself anymore after the trouble I got into last time, all over Twitter. No one has a favourite government brand, do they? I regretted saying it last time. I kind of regret saying it again because I'm not sure it's true. I got a lot of abuse on Twitter saying, well, of course we have our favourite government brand. It's this brand or it's that brand or it's... You know, a lot of people were saying it was the NHS. A lot of people claiming it was other areas. So I've decided now I'm going to have a favourite government brand. There we go. I think I might have clicked onto it here. That's me. You've seen this before, Ollie. My friend Ollie's in the room. He was part of this. This is me at the Met Office reading the weather. You can see I haven't changed much. Changed my hairstyle a little bit. Plenty of sunshine. It feels like February, doesn't it? I think it's going to snow next week. But the Met Office, I love the Met Office. It's because I'm an outdoor person and I always need to know the weather. I think it's a British obsession, the weather as well, isn't it? But I'm not sure everyone really does have their favourite brand. Tell me if you do. They did last time. Look at this language though, connecting with customers, empowering organisation, create real results, we've already talked about it. It's not the language we use in public sector, it's, it doesn't fit. Talked about connecting with citizens. And is a citizen my customer? And this is a debate we always have when I go to meet customers. So I was at a university yesterday. They were talking about students. Yeah, right, it's obvious, right? There was a lady asked the question before, she was from a housing association, she'll probably talk about tenants. We had one the other week, a duty holder, different type of customer a government organisation had. The range of customers that the government has to service is immense. They're all customers, but they're all different. They have a different requirement, they have a different name, they have a different way of looking at things. It's really, really difficult for them. We work with a customer who is building a railway, and they use social engagement to test the temperature, and I'm deliberately using their language, the temperature of what people think about them. Well, it's a bit like me with my favourite government organisation. No one's really very happy about these guys building a railway line between London and half a mile from my house. And everyone's up in arms about it. And if you go on Twitter, you can plot the route. You take something like Orlo, or you see where people are moaning about this railway line. That's the route of the railway line, right? People, you know, test the temperature, really easy. Test the emotion of what people are feeling. You know, people don't tend to moan like that. They don't tend to say good things about the public sector, very rarely. And it's really great news. You know, I live in Coventry, and really great news that I'm going to have this 120-mile-an-hour railway line half a mile from my house. Actually, by the time it's built, I'll be deaf anyway, so you can already tell I'm blind. Talk about enhancing the department, and again, refer to Lisa. She was brilliant I felt really quite inspired by giffgaff and didn't really know much about them before, but I'm certainly checking them out. It's a cool brand. Again, you know, the government departments, they don't tend to be very cool. I think some of the unis are getting there now. They're getting quite cool. Housing associations, I think, are kind of striving to be that. You know, I don't think HMRC is very cool. I don't think Coventry City Council is very cool. Please tell me if you disagree with me. But they don't tend to be known as cool organisations, do they? If indeed they're worried about that. The brand is important to these organisations, though, because they have a master, they'll have a chief exec, they'll have a permanent secretary, they'll have somebody who the brand is important to, will potentially have to report back to Parliament on what's going wrong. We're working with a government organisation where it's gone really, really wrong for them, and the person in charge of it has to go and stand in Parliament and they have to go and stand in front of all these politicians from all different colours of the House and say why it went wrong. Imagine how stressful that would be. So, you know, okay, you might get your TV show wrong, or Virgin Trains might be late, or, you know, Waitrose might sell some dodgy apples. Okay, they have to go and stand in Parliament very often and explain why you got it wrong. That must be really stressful. I wouldn't like to do that. So brand is really important to them. Efficiency is important as well, because they genuinely do want to give you a good service. And it's a real difficult balance. If we think of HMRC, a lot of people struggle because they forget their password. You only use it once a year. You go to log on, maybe I've forgotten my password, so you phone up, you go, can you change my password? I mean, it's bad for the citizen, but it's also bad for the agent who's having to take that call. You know, imagine working in a contact centre where all you do all day is reset people's passwords. That's not good for them. It doesn't lead to good service. Wouldn't it be great if all of that could be automated by a bot or an automatic service, and have the person, the agent, dealing with the really hard questions that make a difference to your life, getting you some money back, saving you some money on your tax? How cool would that be? Here we have a typical public sector service flow. I forgot there was a build on this slide, actually. I like to build the slides up. Not very good with builds. There we go. Typical public sector service flow. In a commercial world, you probably would phone, you're probably encouraged to phone them up, or you're probably encouraged to tweet, because you know you're going to get something back, generally. You might get a discount, you might get a voucher. When we spoke last time, I followed the guy from Ocado, and they were giving people free apples, I think it was. I may have that wrong, but you know, you think, it's worth me phoning up, because I'm going to get something back, and I'm going to get some satisfaction. So I'll do it. The emotion of this is that in public sector, we kind of don't want to call them because we're worried about it. And what you get is you get different groups of people. You tend to get angry people, or you get people in crisis. And you have to treat them very differently to the person that's phoning up Virgin Trains to say, my train's late again. You know, the person that's phoning up the NHS, or they're phoning up a government contact centre where they're in crisis, you have to look at them very, very differently. And what we're starting to see is government organisations trying to look at this a little bit differently. And I was talking to Rich Davis about this morning from Orlo. They're trying to understand what state people are in when they contact them, be it via Twitter, be it via telephone, or another channel, to say, hold on, we've got somebody here who's angry. They're angry, so let's refer them directly to the angry department. Let's not have them type 1 for this department, now type 2 for that department. You know, we've all been there. They're angry, they're in crisis. Let's auto-route them. Let's read their tweet. We can see, actually, they're satisfied. So let's route them to a different department because we can deal with them. And there's work going on to do that right now, and it's really very exciting. I spent the day in a contact centre, a frontline government contact centre. It was draining. I was sat with this lady, and she was on the phone, and she was on web chat. She had 1-inch long fingernails. Yet she had 3 screens going. She had a headset on. She was amazing, absolutely amazing, awe-inspiring. And towards the end of the day, I was exhausted. I'd done nothing. I was exhausted. And I said to her, this is an awkward situation you're dealing with here. I said, clearly it's somebody in crisis. There's emotion involved. They're unhappy. And this lady did everything she could to make this citizen's complaint get sorted and sort out their emotion. And what did she get in return? She got verbal abuse of the worst kind from this citizen. And it almost made me cry, because this lady was a genuine person, genuinely trying to make a difference for the good of the country. And all she got was verbal abuse at the end of the day. It was really, really upsetting and really disturbing, and it wasn't deserved by this person. Don't particularly intend you to read this slide, but in Microsoft we have something called the value journey. We've kind of picked on some of these areas today. Single view of the customer is really important in public sector. I phoned up a contact centre just before Christmas, actually, and I said, I'm Andy Clough. They said, yes, we've got you down as this address, sir. No, I don't live there. Never lived there. So I assumed they've got the wrong Andy Clough, right? But they hadn't, because there was something they knew about me that told me it was me. Yet they'd got this spurious address, and I started getting really worried. And this was quite an important thing for me. It was a health thing. I wanted it, you know, it's not like my Virgin train was late, and I could, to heck with it, I won't worry about it. This was really important to me. So, really bad service, and they really needed to get their customer view right. You can tell I keep taking on and off these glasses. It's a source of frustration for me, and I'm trying to sort it out and do something about it. And on a Sunday afternoon, I was sat in front of the TV, and I decided I'm going to get my eyes sorted out once and for all, and I'd got a £30 voucher, and I clicked on the link, and within 2 hours I'd regretted it, because I went back upstairs. There were 2 phone calls from an unknown number on my phone on the Sunday afternoon. And when I listened to the voicemail, it was this optics company who I'd given my name to. Oh no, they've phoned me twice already on the Sunday afternoon. It's a hard sell. My perception was wrong. And then on the Monday, I was in and around London, didn't have time to answer the phone calls. The 30 phone calls they put into me. There's a great example of where you just go, I don't care, I've got my £30 voucher. I ain't dealing with these guys. Too hard. Another example of the difficulties of service. Government has other challenges, though. We talked about the Met Office earlier on, my favourite place. And they have some real challenges. So it's a difficult thing, the weather. They have to serve lots of different people. And there is, we talk about bots, and we talk about social, we talk about all this stuff. They have a part of the community who will not use technology. And so this part of the community phone up the Met Office and ask what the weather's going to be for their location. And they get about 300 calls a year. It's not very many, but they have to be set up for that because they're a public service. And it demonstrates one of the other challenges they have. They have to be inclusive to everybody, no matter their persuasion. It's hard for all of us, I think, to imagine living in a community in this country, this day and age, where they don't use tech, but they exist and they phone up the Met Office and get the weather. It's really quite difficult. It's a great service, by the way. You can tweet the Met Office. Get up on a Sunday morning and you think, I'm going to go out cycling today or whatever. If you send them a tweet with your postcode, they'll give you the weather, and it's spot on. Really good service. So, I've stolen some time, so I'm going to wrap up very quickly with what's next. I'm not a visionary. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I do know some things that we're starting to look at. Artificial intelligence. That's a buzzword. It's hot within Microsoft. Hold on. Let me give me slides. Right, here we go. That's better. That's what I want to talk about. I'm trying to save some time. Artificial intelligence for good. There's a big debate in Microsoft about artificial intelligence. What does it mean and how does it work? And the debate is centered around diversity, which I think is really important in this space. So there's a fear that all of the algorithms within these AI robots, or whatever they are designed by bold, white, middle-aged men. And clearly that's a bad thing. We don't want any bias in these things. They need to be totally inclusive. And there's a massive debate within Microsoft, and I'm quite proud of this, that actually whatever these artificial intelligence things do, they're balanced and they're equal and they work in the same way for everybody. And I think that's really important. I think we'd expect that. But there is a fear around that. We talk about RPA to improve cost and service. This is really taking hold in public sector. RPA is robotic process automation. And it's not one of these metal things with a couple of things, warning, if anybody remembers. Well, I think I'm probably the only person that's old enough to remember that robot. But they're automatic software robots that fill in forms for you. So you don't have to do it yourself. It saves money, it makes it more efficient, it makes it really easy to do. I was in a contact centre and I was speaking to somebody and they said to me, it's really great. New software's arrived and I only have 3 screens now. I used to have 7. Oh, how depressing is that? Why do you need 3 screens? Well, the information, when a customer phones up, I type it into this system, then that one, and then that one. But it used to be 7, it's only 3 now. That's so depressing. And surely we just type it in once. And RPA is solving that problem. It's really taking hold in public sector to solve really cheaply and efficiently those kind of problems that we've traditionally had in public sector. The final one, sorry I haven't quite rendered properly. I can't remember what the middle one was supposed to be. It was all to do with mobile. I think government's embracing mobile now. Despite what I said earlier about nobody being on the Birmingham City Council website on the train this morning, there is mobile capability there now. You can get your bins collected, your refuse collected, make a complaint on mobile now. I do think that's an area where government is starting to excel. And I do know that a lot of the universities are bringing out really cool apps now where you can do really meaningful stuff. I know when my daughter was at uni, the app was the entrance to everything, and that's what it's got to be, right? Because that's what we do for everything else. And I'm very excited there. But the final challenge we have is change, is crisis. These crises blow up in public sector, and they could blow up this afternoon. We don't know what's coming. It could be a flood. Doubt it with the weather. Keep going on about the weather. It could be something really sad, like really worrying, like a terrorist attack, or it could be a road crash on the motorway. These things blow up and they're a crisis. Lots of things go, and the public sector has to quickly react, and they really struggle with that. It's funding. I've got to do my day job. That's an area of concern. But also things like EU exit. Again, I was listening to it this morning. I'm sure we all do. EU exit's really hard for the public sector because we don't know what's going to happen. And that predictability is really apparent in the public sector. We don't have it. How are we going to pay the farmers post 29th of March? I've got the date right. How many times have I heard it? Is it 29th? How are we going to get the medicines into the country? There's lots of systems been built, and I'm part of some of them, just in case. Well, we're not very good at just in case in the public sector. It might be easier for businesses to prepare for just in case the voice really takes off, and instead of having 1 million tweets, we have 10 million tweets. That would be great, right? But in the public sector, if there's an incident in Westminster, and instead of getting 300 tweets a day, we get 10 million a day, we can't really cope with that. And that's a real challenge for the public sector, trying to get its head right. So I'm done. In summary, it's pretty hard for the public sector. Give them a break. They're trying to make their best. They want to encourage. They genuinely are trying to work for the good of the citizens in I would say 99.9% of cases. Thank you.
We've got time for one quick question from Andy, if anyone's got any questions. If not, we'll move on. One question on the right-hand side here. Just wait for the microphone and let us know where you're from. That would be great.
Chris Berry from Capita. I asked a question from you, Andy, at the show.
You're going to ask the same question, Chris?
No, because I can't remember what that was.
I can't remember.
So I think the conversations I'm having with public authorities and housing associations is about data.
Yes.
And I've likened it in the past to using technology to solve a data problem is like putting petrol in a diesel car. What do you think they can do to solve the data problem?
I think data's not the problem. I think it's the opportunity. Some of the stuff we're doing in Microsoft, I'm not here to chat particularly about Microsoft, but with cloud computing, with the ability to consolidate and aggregate all of this data and look at it for the broader good of society is the real opportunity. And that's where the artificial intelligence comes in. Some of the stuff we're doing in Microsoft about getting all of this data together to look for trends in healthcare, in life sciences, really is going to change the world we live in, I think. Stuart talked about the fourth industrial revolution. That could be the fifth. I'm not visionary enough to know that, but by consolidating this data, we could I think we'll definitely eradicate certain diseases, solve certain environmental problems as well.